Groups and Teamwork, Chapter 7. Groups are two or more people interacting interdependently to achieve a common goal. Groups are social mechanisms by which we acquire beliefs, values, attitudes, and behaviors. Groups exert influence on us and provide a context in which we are able to influence others. Formal groups are established by organizations to facilitate the achievement of organizational goals. Work groups, e.g. departments, task forces and project teams, temporary groups with a single task. Committees, permanent groups outside of the usual work structure, e.g. safety committee. Informal groups emerge naturally in response to the common interests of organizational members, e.g. the lunch group. Group development is similar to the stages of most relationships: forming, getting to know each other; storming, conflict, sorting roles and responsibilities; norming, resolving issues, social structure, interdependencies, and rules. Group development continued. Next stage is performing. Achievement, creativity, and mutual assistance predominate. And adjourning is the last stage. Some groups are dispersed after achieving goals or because companies reorganized. Stages of group development. Here we can see, as time passes by, stages of development differ. At the beginning, forming, we have storming, then norming, then performing, and adjourning. And the definitions have been given in the previous slide. Some groups do not have time to go through the formal group development stages. There's another model called punctuated equilibrium model of group development, and it describes how groups with deadlines are affected by their first meeting and crucial midpoint transition. Punctuated equilibrium stages. Phase 1 is in the first meeting, set the agenda, create assumptions and approaches. Generally, very little visible progress is made. Then we get to the transition or midpoint transition, and it occurs at halfway point. Obvious need to move forward results in change to approach. Phase 2, burst of activity to final meeting. Here we see the graph, the punctuated equilibrium model of group development for two groups. Group number 1, where we can see unsuccessful midpoint transition, and group 2, when we can see successful midpoint transition. In the first meeting, there were what it's supposed to do to set all the resources to all people, assign roles, etc. Before the midpoint arrived. And in the end, in the second phase, which is where people has to work, we see the transition. We see the transition and we see how the group developed. So we have phase 1, first meeting, midpoint, phase 2, and project deadline. And we can see the difference between the two groups. Each stage must be carefully managed and adequate resources made available to ensure success. Group size and satisfaction. Smaller groups tend to have higher member satisfaction. Why? Because less time and energy required for socializing, reduced opportunity for conflict, more opportunity for verbal participation, easier to identify individual contributions. Group size and performance. Larger groups have more process losses, performance difficulties stemming from the problems of motivating and coordinating larger groups, group size and performance, where larger groups have more process losses, and by definition, process loss is the performance difficulties stemming from the problems of motivating and coordinating larger groups. Actual performance is equal to potential performance minus process losses. Potential performance in this case would be the maximum or the best performance that a group can have, but since there are some process losses, actual performance does not equal potential performance. Optimal group size depends on type of work assigned. Additive tasks, by definition, is group performance depends on the sum of individual performance, e.g. more carpenters can frame a house faster. Disjunctive tasks, group performance depends on the performance of best member, e.g. more people looking for an error should be able to find it faster, and this is by just disjunctive tasks. Type of work influencing group size. Continued. Conjunctive tasks are limited by the poorest performer, e.g. that's to say, an example is one person on an assembly line can create a bottleneck. Conjunctive tasks, bottleneck. Get rid of the poor performer. Shrinking group size will increase performance in this case. Diversity of group membership. Homogeneous groups tend to become cohesive more quickly, right? Heterogeneous diverse groups have more difficulty communicating and take longer to become cohesive. Heterogeneous diverse groups have more difficulty communicating and take longer to become cohesive. They tend to be more creative and have stronger problem-solving skills. Diversity group membership continued. Both types of groups, once developed, are equally cohesive and productive, homogeneous and heterogeneous. Surface diversity is, by age, race, tends to wear off in time. Surface diversity. Deep diversity, example work attitudes, can be divisive. Just let me retake. Deep diversity, example work attitudes, can be divisive. Norms are collective expectations that members of social units have regarding the behavior of each other, provide regularity and predictability. Psychological security. Norms, less deviation is tolerated when norms concern important behaviors. Example, attendance, work performance. Roles, positions in a group that have a set of expected behaviors attached to them. And norms require similar behavior. Roles require members to act differently. Norms require similar behavior, and roles require members to act differently. Organizations will designate or assign roles to facilitate task achievement. Emergent roles develop naturally to meet social emotional needs of group members. Role ambiguity. Role ambiguity is the lack of clarity of jobs, goals, or methods. Lack of clarity of job goals or methods. This can be caused by organizational factors, the role sender not being clear, the focal person not fully understanding. Outcomes of role ambiguity: job stress, dissatisfaction, reduced organizational commitment, lowered performance, intent to quit. Here we see a graph, a model of role assumption process. Organizational factors. We have the role sender. We have role expectations, sent role, focal person, received role, role behavior. Role conflict. We have different types of role conflicts, and they exist when a member is faced with incompatible role expectations. By definition, intrasender role conflict is when a single role sender provides incompatible role expectations to role occupant. Intersender role conflict exists when two or more role senders provide incompatible expectations to role occupant. Inter-role conflict exists when a single person holds several roles involving incompatible expectations. Person-role conflict requires behaviors that are incompatible with the personality or skills of the role occupant. Outcomes of role conflict are similar to those of role ambiguity. Status is the rank, social position, or prestige accorded to group members. Example, the group's evaluation of a member. Formal status systems are management's attempt to publicly identify certain individuals. Use of status symbols. Example, seniority, benefits, job titles, and pay. Helps to motivate members to acquire status. Reinforces authority, hierarchy. Informal status system. People tend to confer increased or decreased status on individuals. Examples, high performers versus poor performers. Consequences of status differences. High status people have more influence. Large status differences inhibit communication. Reducing status barriers. Reduce questionable status symbols. Foster a culture of teamwork and communication. And encourages alternate communication methods.